Welcome to Slow News Day. I'm Steve Poikinen.
And I'm Sarah Hall.
We are here highlighting artists, activists, organizers, and agitators who are pushing back against late-stage capitalism here in the heart of the empire. Joining us today, we are beyond grateful and stoked, is John Kiriakou, who has literally put himself at the forefront of the fight for truth about the CIA's torture program. He was the first person to go on TV and expose it in 2007, and for that had his life torn apart by the government, ultimately spending 30 months in prison, and he is now one of the most reliable sources for information about what our CIA is up to and how it operates in a world of Orwellian bullshit and lies. So, please give us a lot of love for John Kiriakou. How are you this morning? I'm doing all right. Let's jump right in. I talked a little bit about kind of what your a little bit of your backstory, but if there's anything that you feel like is pertinent to that will help people understand the situation, what is happening now, if there's anything relatable in what happened to you that would give people a little bit more insight into how our military and our intelligence community is operating in the Middle East and in Venezuela.
You know what? I'll give you first sort of general overview of how you should look at what the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, the intelligence community does on a daily basis. I think we should just automatically assume that they're lying to us. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be funny or it's a joke or anything. Look at it this way. The CIA told us that they were not torturing prisoners. There was no torture program. That was a lie. The CIA said that there was no program of extraordinary renditions where they were kidnapping people and taking them to secret prisons around the world. That was a lie. They said that there was no system of secret prisons around the world. That was a lie. They said, for example, that they had not broken into the Senate Intelligence Committee's computer system. That was a lie. I could go on and on and on, with the bottom line being everything that they tell the American people has been a lie. And so why should we believe them? Now they come out and say, you know, when they come out and tell us, for example, that Juan Guaido, using Venezuela as the example, when Juan Guaido is the legitimately recognized president of Venezuela because they want him to be. Why should we believe that? When they tell us that the Iranians are the greatest threat facing the United States, why should we believe that? Or when they tell us that the Russians are the gravest threat, or the Chinese are the gravest threat, or ISIS is the gravest threat, why should we believe them when everything else they've told us is film? So I would recommend, I would urge your viewers to do your own research. Don't believe anything government tells you unless you've checked it out. You know, it's worth spending 5, 10, 15 minutes to Google, try to confirm it, to refute whatever it is the government says.
That is absolutely correct. In my opinion, and I think it's a shared one, at least by a small percentage of people in America who aren't persuaded by the propaganda. Venezuela's new president says CIA asset to me, says part of the team. He's didn't he go to Georgetown?
Yeah, he went to Georgetown School of Foreign Service.
Yeah. Given our history in Latin America and the way that we have put CIA assets or employees in high-level government positions after we orchestrated a coup, I don't understand how the playbook can be the exact same every single always, and people don't go, hey, wait a minute, I've seen this before and it turned out to be bullshit.
Steve, look at it this way. Look at it this way. This guy is what, 35 years old? 81%, according to a recent poll, 81% of Venezuelans never heard of this guy. He's, he's not a major political figure. Nobody knew who the heck he was. 2 days after he announced that he was the new president, I saw an interview with the president of Bolivia saying we have to stand by Jose, what was his name? And an aide says Guaido. Jose Guaido, and then she says, no, Juan Guaido. She says, yes, we have to stand with Juan Guaido. They don't even know who this guy is.
Jesus.
And so if this 35-year-old nobody from Georgetown wakes up one morning and declares himself the president of Venezuela, I would say, yeah, he's probably a CIA actor. He's probably working with CIA money. I have no inside information whatsoever to indicate that that's the case. But like you, where you said this screams CIA actor, it screams CIA actor to me too.
And again, I just don't see how when the pattern is so repetitive and so specifically repetitive, why more people aren't just really asses in the streets about this. And asses in the streets is kind of a central theme to the show. We don't think that voting inside a rigged system in a duopoly is an effective avenue for change, especially if we have 11 years left before we hit an unsustainable point in the way that our planet is going to treat us. So we thoroughly encourage people to get out and make a noise and shut shit down if we can, because that's the only way we're going to get any kind of representation in the political sphere. Is the propaganda effort seems to be, especially when it comes to Venezuela, more successful than even in the Middle East, and people in the center, people on the right. Venezuela's just been a punching bag historically. Can you shed any light onto why that may be?
Oh, I think I can. I think that the has been often more successful in Venezuela than in the Middle East. Our relations with right-wing or center-right governments in Central and South America have been so much easier, so much smoother than our relationships have been with various royal or quasi-fascist regimes in the Middle East. How many times in the last, 6 years since the death of President Chavez, has the United States done something to isolate the Venezuelan government? And we saw immediate success.
Yeah.
When we just wake up one day and decide we're going to make this 35-year-old guy the president of Venezuela, and then a dozen regional countries immediately fall into line, the fix is in. So we wouldn't see that in the Middle East, because even the countries with which we have good relations are untrustworthy of us because of our history in that region. That's not necessarily the case in Latin America. And it might be because we're the big boys on the block. It might be because the military has been in the region for so long. There are probably 100 reasons. But it shows you how powerful we are, that we can just decide one day we're going to unleash chaos in the country, and it happens, and nobody complains about it.
While simultaneously telling people that meddling in elections is wrong.
Yeah, right. I mean, out of the one side of our mouth, we said, oh my God, the Russians gave us Donald Trump. But on the other side of our mouth, we said, well, we're going to give you Juan Guaido, and you're going to thank us for it.
Are we going to see boots on the ground in a legitimate military conflict in Venezuela before the year's up?
I don't think so, but I think we will see boots on the ground in the illegitimate. I think what we'll see are probably special forces or covert troops working closely with Colombian special forces, and I think they'll do more to harass Venezuelans and undermine the government and its authorities that will to outright cause a military conflict. Don't forget that this entire accusation is a violation of international law. There are only three ways in which a country can commit troops to another country. Three ways that are legal under international law, and that is with the invitation of the host government, which clearly is not what's happened here. Number two is if that government militarily attacks us, which clearly hasn't happened. And the third is with the official approval of the United Nations Secretary, not Secretary General, but the United Nations Security. And that also has. We literally have no legal basis for doing any of the things that we're doing. It's just simply against the law.
Yeah, it's insane to me. And what's more insane to me is the reaction by just regular people, like regular working people who have no stake in the end result of us invading Venezuela for their oil. They're just regular fucking people that are like, oh, hey, no, it's Venezuela. They deserve to be kicked. And I think that I think that the efforts that our media put into delegitimizing any nation that hasn't fully endorsed our style of not necessarily democracy, but have not been absorbed into the empire, how they do it with no introspection whatsoever, with no, and these people are fucking Rhodes scholars. Some of them, they know history, they know better. They just disseminate the propaganda because they're getting paid $30,000 a day, and I don't. You had a crisis of conscience. You sat on some shit for a couple of years. You know what that's like. It's.
I kept my own mouth shut for 5 years. I kept waiting for somebody to say something 5.5 years, and nobody said anything. Because I decided I would say something. And I hope that others would do the same thing. I participated in a panel discussion with Ed Snowden 2 weeks ago, and it's been a long time since I had spoken to Ed, and he said something that it just made it all worthwhile. He said that he had followed my case very closely, and that when I was convicted, that's what made him decide to go with his revelations. And he said that without John Kiriakou, there would not have been an Ed Snowden. I hope that Ed Snowden then can inspire more people in CIA or NSA or wherever, the White House, wherever, to go public with evidence of government illegality. Because if we keep letting the government get away with it, nothing will ever change. And people like you and I will be, in the fringe chattering for eternity, and that's just not right.
No, in a sane world, we would treat our whistleblowers the way that we treat our athletes, and we would treat our athletes like athletes. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Iran, because I remember who John Bolton is, and I have noticed a pattern over the last year and a half of Donald Trump's cabinet being absorbed by George W. Bush's friends and his father's friends and all of those same, for lack of better word, deep state or permanent intelligence state, unelected state, has taken root in Donald Trump's administration, and we are illegally in Venezuela. We're still bombing all of the same countries we've been bombing. And Iran has been, it would be the feather in John Bolton's gigantic mustache.
And he's been talking about it. Remember, John Bolton was during the George W. Bush administration. Then he couldn't even get himself confirmed as ambassador to the United Nations, and Bush had to name him in a recess appointment. So why is John Bolton the national security advisor? Why isn't John Bolton Secretary of State? Because even in the Republican Senate, he's still so unpopular that he couldn't get confirmation in the U.S. Senate. So you name a national security advisor that requires confirmation, and here you put this well-known neocon in charge of U.S. foreign and military policy. That's exactly what's happening. So first of all, I want to say that your observations are correct. We have seen in a very short period of time, less than 2 years, a group of George Bush neocons and a group of what are called Republican never-Trumpers, people who said that they're Republicans, they're conservatives, and they would never vote for or support Donald Trump, taking over the Trump administration and its foreign and intelligence policy. I mean, John Bolton, the last person, like literally the last person.
Except for maybe Elliot Abrams.
Except for Elliot Abrams, that's a great point. Because Elliot already has a felony conviction. Yes. Elliot Abrams, who's a proven war criminal. You would think that that would disqualify him. And it doesn't. So neocons have taken over, and it happened very quickly and very quietly. And here we are, where we find ourselves with a neocon foreign policy that's identical to the George W. Bush foreign policy.
And yet people are saying trust the plan, and people think that he drained the swamp, and people think that Donald Trump walking out and saying we shouldn't be in Syria or Afghanistan is the same thing as we are getting out of Syria and Afghanistan. And then you see the report that he spends 67% of his time doing fuck all. And people are like, well, great, because he's not working. But no, John Bolton is working during that time. Elliot Abrams is working during that time. Jared Kushner is going around and making deals that are ultimately just going to blow up right in his smug little face. But those people are working when he's not. And that to me is more dangerous than an incurious narcissist trying to decide whether or not he can, I don't know, jail people based on tweets, you know?
So true. This is not what I expected from Donald Trump in foreign policy. He knew his foreign policy ideas were not, because he was surrounded with the likes of Jared Kushner and Stephen Miller. But I didn't expect the neocons. I really didn't. I really believed that on foreign policy they were so far apart that they were going to have to just sit out this administration, and that's not at all what happened.
No, it's absolutely it's such a part of the overall pattern that I shouldn't be surprised. But when they first started coming in, and even Brett Kavanaugh being nominated, Karl Rove plucked Brett Kavanaugh out of nowhere and gave him a federal appointment. Like he's part and parcel of that crew, and people's unwillingness to make that connection, especially in conservative media, especially like Trump's stalwart defenders, they are not willing to go, hey, you know what? All of these people that we just spent the last 8-10 years trashing are running the show again, and that's dangerous. There's a hole in reporting that I find particularly curious.
Oh, I think you're right. I think that's an ongoing problem that's going to get worse. Because, Trump is a creature of habit, and he's not a Washington insider, so he doesn't really know who the substantive experts are in this city. Don't forget, for example, that 13 assistant secretaries of state positions are vacant right now. 13. It's impossible to implement foreign policy when you have no assistant secretaries of state to implement it. So he doesn't know who the people are at that second or third tier. were necessary to run the day-to-day operations of government. What he knows are the people he knows. You know, the Roy Cohens of the world. He's dead, of course, to give you an example of the people that Donald Trump surrounds himself with.
Right.
Those are the people that he's looking on, and those are the ones who are leading the likes of Elliot Abrams. I got to tell you, even with Donald Trump as president, Elliot Abrams was literally the last person I thought would be rehabilitated and brought into government in a national security position. There was no one in America who could do this job except for Elliot Abrams.
Yeah, that to me was more of a nod to the Cynthia McKinney calls them Zio-Cons.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And that was more of a nod to the Zio-Cons than any other move that this administration has made thus far. And I'm genuinely disconcerted over the fact that guy is not in prison at the moment, let alone being in charge of South American policy in Venezuela.
And why is he not in prison? Because George H.W. Bush pardoned.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, you know, you got to look out for your friends. Fuck. I know you don't have that much time left. So if we, when you were employed by the CIA, you were in the Middle East. You were in Afghanistan, mostly, right?
I spent most of my time in the Middle East.
Yeah. Did we have a covert presence operating in Iran at that point?
No, not that I ever heard. I certainly was exposed to them. You know, this is another thing too. Is so many Americans think that the CIA is literally everything. We've got, let's say, covert presence in Iran, covert presence in North Korea, maybe Cuba, other what are called denied areas. It's just not true. The CIA is not as good as people think they are. They're not as smart. They're not as aggressive as people think they are. And that's why there are so many routine intelligence failures, because you have literally nobody on the ground to report back to you. You have no recruited assets inside those countries to report back to you. That's why 9/11 happened. We had literally zero sources inside of Al-Qaeda to report back to us and say, hey, here's the plan. This is where they're going to hit. You need to do something to stop them. There's nothing. Talk about an intelligence failure. You know, we talk about these major intelligence failures being 9/11 and Pearl Harbor and a handful of times in between. I would venture to say that we experience intelligence failures all the time. I mean, look at the major events, foreign policy events of the last generation. The CIA has missed every single one of them. They missed the fall of the Berlin Wall. They missed the Iran hostage crisis. They missed the transition of power in Cuba. They miss everything. And it's because they're just not as good as they want people to believe they are.
I mean, it's either that or they're helping it along.
I think no, because if they were helping it along, the resulting chaos that's just dragged the country down into, well, we've spent $13 trillion, for example, on even the CIA is not stupid enough to do something like that with its eye open.
Yeah, it seems like it would be really easy to control a population if, say, 80% of the country lived paycheck to paycheck, or GoFundMe was the national health care model, or people needed 3 jobs to pay bills, so the only news they got was on corporate media, who was selling them the talking points of the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex. But I am a cynical bastard, so it could just be me.
Are you?
You're making a good point, and I want to agree with you by showing you the example of Ken Delaney. Ken Delaney is the NBC News national security correspondent, formerly with the Los Angeles Times. Ken Delaney was caught red-handed through a Freedom of Information Act, sending his articles to the CIA for comment before he sent them even to his own editor. And the CIA was telling him, well, we want you to say this this way, and we don't want you to say this other thing. And here's some alternative language that we like better. And that's what NBC News was publishing. What the CIA wanted Ken Delanian to have NBC News. Well, that's not democracy. That's not freedom of press. That's the deep state, dark state, whatever corporate media complex telling Americans what they want Americans to know.
Yeah, it's state-run media passing as free market, independent journalism, and yet you have your show is on Sputnik. We're on YouTube. You know, Lee Camp is on RT and gets treated like a Russian asset. You know, they kicked Ed Schultz off of MSNBC and he went to RT. You know, Chris Hedges, left the New York Times because he wouldn't toe the line on selling the Iraq War, and On Contact is an RT show. You know, they won't allow even the slightest bit of countering the narrative that is put out there by, the government and the military-industrial complex. So it seems like state-run media to me.
I think it is essentially state-run. I mean, what's the difference, though, between state-run media and corporate media? I mean, seriously, they're just peas in the same pot.
I couldn't agree with you more. I know you said we had 30 minutes, and it's been 30 minutes. So please, guys, go check out Loud and Clear with Brian Becker and John Kiriakou on Sputnik Radio. There's a free app to download, or I can listen right on my laptop. And then do you have any...
We're on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's free. If you don't want to download the Sputnik app, it's very easy to do.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other good shows on Sputnik, too. And do you have anything else coming up soon that you would like to plug or promote?
Oh, on the 21st of February, if you happen to find yourself in Salem, Massachusetts, I'm going to be at the Salem Speaker Series talking about exactly these issues.
Awesome.
So, absolutely welcome.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much. We will.
Nice meeting you. Thank you, John.
We'll pick this up again here soon for part 2. Yeah.
Forward to that. Thanks.
Beautiful.
All right. You have a wonderful rest of your day, sir.
You too. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. You want to freestyle for a little bit with this show? Kind of talk about what we just fucking absorbed. Fill up another 15 minutes for the episode length.
We are on record still. Let's see here. Confirm. Stop.
I mean, you can do that.
Cancel. Split screen. And we are still recording. So
That was fucking awesome.
seamless.
Dude, that was awesome. Wow, John Kiriakou. Can you imagine doing 30 months in federal prison because you told the truth about a torture program?
Yeah. He kind of just got financially strangled into it, though. He wanted to fight it with everything he had, but at
Absolutely.
some
It's
point
on the
he
other
said
side of
it
you.
became strictly a consideration for his finances and his family. He was $1 million in.
I don't know if I I don't know if I agree with we're not going to have boots on the ground in Venezuela. Like, the reporting is starting to come out that we're already at the border with Venezuela and Colombia. Although, he's right, fighting a proxy war with the Colombian Army and U.S. Special Forces seems a lot more out of the traditional playbook. I can't wait for part 2.
He definitely backed up everything that you say about the media quite frequently, and what I've come to understand too. I can't even stand watching it anymore.
So,
And I did watch a little bit of the Rachel Maddow talking about Russia dropping the power while homeless people are freezing
this
to
is
death.
dead.
And
We're not working. Yeah, fucking Rachel Maddow.
what was the deal with that, anyways?
So, okay,
Why?
I'm gonna try and find it here real quick. But if you guys missed this, Rachel Maddow went on her show and tried to scare her listeners into thinking that at any moment Russia could hack the power grid.
Maybe she thought the fear would keep them warm.
Russia can hack the power grid and make them freeze to death. And I'm going to go ahead and...
Oh, good.
and
There it
play
is. There.
The audio. Right meow.
And it is like negative 50 degrees in the Dakotas right now. What would happen if Russia killed the power in Fargo today? Right? What would happen if all the natural gas lines that service Sioux Falls just poofed on the coldest day in recent memory, and it wasn't in our power whether or not to turn them back on? I mean, what would you do if you lost heat indefinitely as the act of a foreign power on the same day the temperature in your front yard matched the temperature in Antarctica? I mean, what would you and your family do?
I would take the bullshit out of my ears. Oh my fucking God. What would you do if the Russians hacked the power grid? I would turn off the 1983 cinematic classic Red Dawn is what I would do. I would stop watching Red Dawn on a fucking loop the entire day while I was doing show prep. Red Dawn, Red Dawn, Red Dawn. Fucking, that's what I would step away from that shit, man. That is absolutely what the fuck are you talking about with the I'm gonna tell my who and her listeners are not spring chickens, man. Like, the average age is like 2 years younger than the average age for a Fox News viewer. So it's like 63, 65, something like that, dude. She is scaring old people for money.
Scaring old people for money.
That is fucking wrong, Rachel Maddow. It's wrong. You should be ashamed of yourself, but $30,000 a day to do your show will cover up a lot of fucking shame.
How about it's a lot more likely that our infrastructure is just going to collapse because it's so taxed to the max? Or like PG&E is just going to be like, phew, that was gnarly. Rebrand, we're out of here, and just leave that roach husk in the dusk. I think that husk is more likely to blow over and crush us.
Then the Reds hacking the power grid? You think? You fucking... I don't know, man. Vladimir Putin is in the water in Flint. He is. He is. I swear to God, I fucking heard it on MSNBC. It's fucking Vladimir Putin's
So
fault.
yeah, that felt pretty good to have him say, we're on to the media with the shit that they're fucking blowing through the chode hose at people.
You know, they make it so glaringly obvious that you have to willingly believe. Like, it takes more effort to believe Rachel Maddow than it does to hear that shit and go, are you fucking kidding me? Are you really? You just, you
The Russians are
get
coming.
paid for that?
How many homeless people are in that region? About 200,000? I think it's like something like 200,000.
That she showed on that map, probably about 250,000. I don't know, but it's the entire fucking like north part of the United States. I know that when they made a big deal out of 15 homeless people freezing to death in Chicago, I looked up the fucking stats on how many empty houses there were, and there were almost 2,400 empty homes. It's not an unfixable problem. There's just no will for it. I am happy to see that, like, the number one thing trending on Twitter right now is the Green New Deal, which Nancy Pelosi vehemently smacked down and called it the Green New Dream or whatever that those people are talking about. Nancy Pelosi, who said that her fucking super weird clap at the State of the Union was because she really agreed with what the president was saying, and that she was actually kissing his ass and not introducing America to the fuck you clap. And I just want to go on record as saying that there are at least like a half a dozen fucking schizophrenic homeless dudes in Santa Cruz that clap like that at the fucking pigeons and the fucking seagulls that they think are monitoring their thoughts, and nobody is out there fucking painting pictures of them with like fucking, you know, halos and shit around them. Nobody's fucking putting them on a meme celebrating their clap. And I think it's fucking bullshit, man, because A, they might be right about the seagulls, and B, Nancy Pelosi's defense of herself was, no, I was agreeing vehemently with Donald Trump. She's the most progressive person you guys could find for Speaker of the House, huh? Remember that Trump endorsed her, too, for Speaker of the House? Yeah, it's a big club. We ain't in it. Fuck. Good luck to us all.
Good luck to us all.